happy people, it's Tracy Reed here today, coming at you with a video, and I'm voicing over this in the beginning while I'm talking live because I wanted to talk about something for a moment. First of all, I know you're asking where are my December daily videos. I'm gonna create a video hopefully this next week talking about my plans for December daily, my plans for 2020, my 2020 scrapbooking, and all of that. So if you're waiting on my December daily, I'm sorry, it's coming, but not probably on the schedule that you're hoping for. And I'll talk about why and all of that in that video. But secondly, I wanted to talk about what my plan was for the rest of 2019, which was, I have a list of layouts that need to be done. This isn't even the full list. This is like through September probably. So I also have on top of this October and November that need to be done. And I'm feeling a bit of an overwhelm with the backlog. And part of the problem is I have layouts from April and May that aren't done because this is not inspiring me. This was the trip I took to Houston with Karsten for his robotics trips. This is like the last 2 pages of it. And this is not inspiring to me. This is not making me happy. So what I did last night was I sat down and I revamped this. First of all, I wasn't telling the stories that I wanted to tell. Like I had printed these out and I was like, okay, this one's Easter, this one's, everything that has to do with robotics and done. And I realized as I was looking through the pictures last night that I wasn't telling all of the story, and I was just trying to rush through it to get to the end. And I realized that recently that is what I've been doing with my scrapbooking. Because I am backed up, because I am behind, I am rushing through things to get them done and get them off my plate so that I can move on to something that I really want to work on. And it's creating a lot of stress in my life, and well, not in my life, but in my scrapbooking. And I don't want to feel that way. That is not where I'm at. I don't want to be stressed about my creative outlet. I don't want to be rushed. Like I'm not using all of the tools that I can be using. I'm not taking time to look through my supplies and find the perfect stuff. So that's where I was at. And so I sat down and I said, okay, how can I fix this? And this is what I came up with. So I have already pulled cards and photos, reprinted photos for this. So first of all, I have 2 photos to replace this with that's going to talk about life with teens and how he's always staring at his phone. Obviously this is the same photo, but I reprinted it a little bit smaller, and I'm going to focus the story on living with teenagers. The second thing that I did also, I printed out a couple of variations. So I also added this text. This alphabet is from Allison Pennington at the Lily Pad, and then this is just a font that I added to it. I added one with text, one without. I'm not sure which one I'll use. I really like the one with text, but it's just going to depend on how things go. In that same vein, I also did the same for these photos down here. So I am going to create a flip up page because I still want to include this photo, which I didn't like the way it was printed, so I reprinted it. And then I also want to include this one of when the roof opened up. It's pretty much the same view, just the roof is opening up. So I also added words here. I added simply magical in I put it on overlay so that it got this color variation in it. And then I also printed out, I printed one without just in case, because also this felt a little bit repetitive to me. So I'm not quite sure. That's part of the reason why I printed it out both ways. But anyway, so I also printed out my journaling. I added, one of the things that I have been really struggling with lately is the lack of story. And it's not really a struggle so much as I've noticed that I'm not taking the time to really tell the story. And so I started typing up these big long stories with my December daily prep for this year. And so I thought, why can't I do that in my regular scrapbooking? And so I am. Then I just reprinted this one smaller so that I could add to it. And then I also reprinted this one And here is a journaling card to tell this story. And then also I printed out another photo that tells another story that I was ignoring initially. So I already really like this better. Obviously I have the cards picked out already too. So then we come over to this side of the coin, this side, and I'm gonna keep this Easter Memories card. And so I really like the effect of this big pot of crawfish, but it was like, why am I dedicating an entire 4x6 space to crawdads? So I'm going to combine those two photos onto one card because it tells one story. And then I also stopped omitting my own story from this page. So this is about, or the feels that I was going for with this was about, you know, being trapped on a bus with a bunch of teenagers to and from Houston, which is a 15-hour drive on a bus from Knoxville, and how, you know, there's places I'd much rather be than there, but, you know, mama ain't easy. And then the last one is I decided to combine all three of these stories and omit this photo, which I didn't feel like I needed at this point. And I combined all three stories into one card about the Easter egg hunt, the three-legged Easter egg hunt, and I'll just put a little journaling here. Obviously, I also omitted this photo. I might just slide it in behind something. I don't actually care about that group photo. It's not a great group photo, and Carson's actually not doing robotics this year. So I don't think he's really maintained any of the friendships from robotics. It was kind of a fraught thing when we finished robotics, and we kind of left the team because it wasn't really like the politics of the team was kind of garbage. So I don't really care about those people. I'll stick the photo in just to have it, but no one's gonna know who any of them are in 10 years because those aren't relationships that he's maintained. So no big deal. Anyway, I'm going to switch over to the actual scrapbooking now, but I thought I would explain, you know, how you can revamp, reset, start over. Just because you printed the photos and you had one idea in mind in the beginning, if it's not inspiring you, take a moment, take a breath, reevaluate why it's not inspiring you. One, I printed the photos too big, they were too dark, and two, they weren't telling the stories that I wanted to tell. Before, I had all robotics, all Easter, and now I have, you know, this whole story of the closing ceremonies. I'll have a story of Carson, you know, bonding with the boys. I'll have a story of Carson being buried in his phone, the story of the crawdad boil on the way home from Houston, the story of the three-legged egg hunt, and, you know, a story about me and how all of this whole week in Houston affected me and changed my my schedule around and how I had to deal with that. So now I've got way more story going on and I'm ready to go. So anyway, that was a long explanation of why I reprinted photos, but I'm gonna skip over to the actual scrapbooking now. All right. Okie dokie, so here we go. Sorry, it's a little messy. I'm a little messy. I am going to glue all of these photos down to cards, and I'm going to fast forward through that process because this video is a little long with my intro and outro, so I'm just going to, you know, stick all these down and you don't have to watch. So I use a variety of cards. Actually, a lot of these are digital cards from Allison Pennington at the lily pad. I thought I would just go for an Allison Pennington theme since I was using her alphabets. Some are from Coco Daisy, some are just from my stash, and that Easter one I believe is from Allie Edwards. So I kind of used the color palette on that plaid card down there to define the color palette for the spread, and then I went with that, found things that would go with that color palette. So I did like cover up some cards that were like you know, they had words and stuff on them. I just wanted them for the color, basically. A lot of them were the digital cards, so if I want in the future for the words to be part of the spread, then I can just reprint them. That is the beauty of digital. And so I have all of these photos, and they're two different stories, and I went over all of the stories and everything. But my task here was to try and pull together all of these stories from two different days into one cohesive layout. So I did that through color, basically. I have the pink, the dark teal, black, and yellow as my base colors, and I have a lot of pink on the right hand side, so through embellishments I'm going to pull pink to the left hand side. I pulled out a lot of Pink Fresh Studio embellishments because the color matched pretty well. I also reorganized my product recently and have like a stash of spring embellishments, a stash of travel embellishments. So I pulled out the spring and the travel to kind of see what I had going on and what I could pull from. And that was sort of the base of my layout. I'm finding that that system is really working for me, having all of my travel stuff together and all of my spring stuff together, because I scrap by theme a lot rather than, I mean, I do scrap by color, but my starting point is always theme. So I'm finding that having my themes grouped together is really working for me. So I'm just going through and I'm sticking down all of these embellishments that I have already picked out. I kind of skipped through the process of sorting through the embellishments just for time's sake, and skipped right to the part where I'm gluing them down, because you don't need to see me sort them through and then glue them down in a video that is already long. So I cut off part of that flower, so I put it on the left hand side of that card, because you know that's a trick that I always love to do. It spreads the embellishment around, and also you know, it doesn't waste it. I have this card and the other one down there at the bottom right that have two photos layered on them to tell one story. And so I'm just kind of adding embellishments to group those clusters together. I decided to add this travel log cardstock piece at the bottom of that card rather than just have the blank space. I thought that it would tie the theme to that card and the colors better if I had that travel thing down there at the bottom, like the reference to travel. Now I'm going through with I always think of these things as the last embellishment, so like all of the shapes typically are the things that I put down last. So I have these yellow Pink Fresh Studio, they're old stars, they're kind of layered. I'm using those on this magical card. I did decide to go with both of the photos that had words on them. I thought it was fine. It is a lot of words, but you know I like a lot of words, and it worked for me better with the titles on the photos already. I liked them. I'm struggling a bit with this bottom card that I'm playing with right here, because my initial thought was I really wanted that paint stroke to show because it does match the color scheme, but then like I layered those photos so closely over the top of each other that it felt like it was just super blank on the outsides of the page. So I do end up covering up most of that paint stroke in the end, which defeats the purpose, but you still have the white card with the black dots, which brings in the black down there as well. I thought about adding some pearls, but I changed my mind. So what I'm going to end up doing here is I'm going to start putting things into the pockets so that I can put together my flip pocket. So I'm trying to expand this cluster, and this is how I decided to do it. I just add a little tag underneath here to expand the width of the whole thing, and there we go. I like that better. There's more going on. I'm really loving the clustery feel of all of this. It makes me so much happier than just rushing through it. And so I think I'm going to take the rest of 2019 and catch up. And so there's going to be a lot of random videos of random subjects during December. I'm not sure, like I am sure, but I'm not sure when I'm going to do December daily. I'll talk about that in my video next week, but it's probably not going to be during December. Adding a few extra cardstock stickers, and then I'm going to switch over to live voiceover again as I put the rest of the spread together. So yeah, here we go. Okay, so I've got all these in here now, except for this one, and it's on the back of this page protector, so I'm just going to use my Scotch tape and tape it down. I could cut a hole in the pocket. Excuse my kids sneezing, but I'm not going to because there's no point. There's no reason to. This works just fine. There we go. Actually, it's a little centered. Let's try that again. I don't know why we don't think to add these sort of things very often to our regular scrapbooking. Just December daily. But I'm gonna start adding it more. I think I bought the Avery Index tabs and I think I'm gonna use one here because they're pretty cool. So, should I put it, I can't really put it here. I guess I'll put it here, or maybe, I think I could put it there. That's what I'll do, I'll put it there. So, stick one side down. And the other. There we go. Now I need an insert. I need to like stamp or something on here. That's what Allie always does, right? Stamp on these. But I don't know what I'm going to stamp, so I'm gonna do that off camera. Or maybe, no, I don't know what I'm gonna stamp. And the question is, how do I get this off? Ooh, I know. I'll just write where we were because it's kind of cool. We were in the Houston Astros stadium. Come on. What is that stadium called? Let's look it up. So this will go in here, and I will call it good once I figure out the Astros stadium name. So if you enjoyed this video, I'd love it if you give it a thumbs up. If you're new here, go ahead and subscribe. And if you don't already, you can follow me over on Instagram. My handle is @TracyMReed. This says Minute Maid Park, and that is not right. I'll have to look it up. Anyway, if you don't already, you can follow me over on Instagram. I'm @TracyMReed, and let me know what you think about what I went over in this process video about changing photos, revamping your plans. Let me know your plans for 2020, geez, in the comment section below. All right, thank you.